morning, everyone. My name is David Matsumoto, and I'm very, very pleased to be able to join all of you today at this Dharma family service at the Berkeley Buddhist Temple. I'd like to thank Reverend Kuwahara for inviting me to speak today. It's been a while, and it's something I've looked forward to for a while. Unfortunately, because of the COVID situation, we can't be together as we had in the past. And I'm recording this Dharma talk, so it's going to be filled with all sorts of errors and flubs, but I'm going to just power through and try to get to the end of this without making too many mistakes. But anyway, once again, I'd like to thank all of you for the invitation to speak today. And I'd now like to continue my Dharma talk by sharing with you a PowerPoint presentation. I'm going to do that right now. So today's talk is entitled Blend, Buddha's Call and Our Response. May I ask all of you to please join me in Gassho as we listen to the words of Shinran Shonin as he explains the meaning of Namu in Namu Amida Butsu. Namu means to take refuge. To take refuge is the command of the primal vow, calling to and summoning us. The Shinran Shonin's writing in his major text, The True Teaching, Practice, and Realization, chapter on practice. Shinran Shonin also says in another text, Namu means to take refuge. To take refuge is to respond to the command and follow the call of the two honored ones, Shakyamuni and Amida. This is from Shinran Shonin's text, Notes on the Inscriptions on Sacred Scrolls. Namo Amida Butsu. Namo Amida Butsu. Namo Amida Butsu. Today is actually a very auspicious day. Yesterday, on January 16th, Saturday, was Shinran Shonin Memorial Day. In Jodo Shinshu, we know it as Ho-Onko. Of course, at Berkeley, we observe Ho-Onko in November, but most of the temples in Nishi-Honganji observe Ho-Onko on January 16th. So we are now observing the day after Ho-Onko. Shinran Shonin was born on May 21st, 1173, and passed away on January 16th, 1263. Tomorrow is also a very important day. We will be celebrating Martin Luther King Day on January 18th of this year. Martin Luther King, of course, as many of you know, was a very well-known civil rights leader. And he was born on January 15th, 1929, and he died on April 4th, 1968. Dr. King was an American Baptist minister and an activist who became the most visible spokesperson and leader in the civil rights movement from 1955 until his assassination in 1968. Dr. King is best known for advancing civil rights through nonviolence and civil disobedience. He was inspired by his Christian beliefs and also the nonviolent activism of Mahatma Gandhi. Dr. King participated in and led marches for Black persons' right to vote, desegregation, labor rights, and other basic civil rights. In 1963, Dr. King gave a well-known speech at the March on Washington. And the speech has come to be known as the I Have a Dream speech. I think most of you have heard it. I really urge you, especially on Martin Luther King Day, to find it on the internet, and you can actually hear the speech. It's really stirring, very, very inspiring. Let me just read a few lines from the I Have a Dream speech by Dr. King. He said, I have a dream that one day on the red hills of Georgia, the sons of former slaves and the sons of former slave owners will be able to sit down together at the table of brotherhood. I have a dream that my 4 little children will one day live in a nation where they will not be judged by the color of their skin, but by the content of their character. I have a dream today that one day down in Alabama, little Black boys and Black girls will be able to join hands with little white boys and white girls as sisters and brothers. I have a dream today. With this faith, we will be able to work together, to pray together, to struggle together, to go to jail together, to stand up for freedom together. If America is to be a great nation, this must become true. This is a very famous I Have a Dream speech. We know that today the murders of George Floyd, Breonna Taylor, Jacob Blake, Rashard Brooks, Elijah McClain, and so many other African Americans by the police has led people across the world to rise up in a Black Lives Matter movement, which refocuses our country on the problem of ongoing systemic racism and violence against Black persons and the need to resolve this program through fundamental social change. We know that Dr. Martin Luther King, of course, became one of the most consequential social change activists in the late 20th century because of his unequivocal commitment to nonviolence and for leading a movement for social justice that could speak equally to those who were moved by their own religious beliefs, as well as those who were moved by principles of human rights. At this vital time, it is perhaps also important that we reflect upon Dr. King and the impact of his life, words, and deeds. This can allow us to reflect upon the troubling times in which we now live and understand how our own religious tradition of Jodo Shinshu, founded by Shinran Shonin, can inspire us to act and live and work for the benefit of all people today. We at the Berkeley Buddhist Temple have chosen the idea of blend to be one expression in that religious commitment. So I found this from the BBT website, which states, Buddhists living in equality and non-discrimination blend. Blend is how we describe our acceptance and appreciation of our blended lives. It signifies that we can embrace the purity of those lives and reflects the aspiration and commitment on the part of our temple and ourselves as Buddhists to understand and celebrate the richness, diversity, and challenges of our blended lives. May we all endeavor to think, speak, and act in ways that will promote the inclusion of all people in our Sangha and throughout our lives. This is a statement that we find on the website of the Berkeley Buddhist Temple, which sets out to express the meaning of the concept of blend. But there's a new perspective which I'd like to share with you, and I appreciate very, very much. A while ago, Tara Umemoto contacted me and mentioned that she and a number of others at the temple are starting an inclusion committee, a committee on inclusion and support, which I'm very, very happy with. I think this is really wonderful, a wonderful thing to do, a wonderful movement within the temple. And she informed me or asked me about the E in blend, that is, which I had set out as equality. And Tara informed me very kindly that the committee had been discussing whether equality was the proper word or the most appropriate word to use in the title of blend. Because in a sense, equality would seem to have a sense that everyone gets the same kind of treatment or thing, whereas equity would be giving everyone an even playing field. And so she asked how I thought about whether changing equality to equity would be all right. And I said, just perfectly fine. I really enjoyed and appreciated her insights. And I thought that this is just a wonderful movement on the part of the young people at the temple to be focusing on diversity, on inclusion within the temple life and outside of the temple walls in our society through the notion of blend. And I'm all for it. I'm just totally supportive of this work and this movement. However, it gave me a chance to think a little bit about what I understand about blend and how I sort of conceive it. As I mentioned before, when this idea first came up, I sort of constructed this phrase blend as a reference to Buddhists living in equality and non-discrimination. In reality, I had thought about trying to, I wanted to use the word oneness in here, trying to figure out how best to fit this in. But then if it was oneness, instead of an E, I'd have an O, and it would be blonde, which wouldn't necessarily work because not all of us are blondes, but all of us are blends. And so I opted for the word equality. However, it really, I appreciate what Tara and the young people have to say, and I'm all in favor of shifting the word from equality to equity. I also did want to say that this Tara's question, as well as this opportunity to think a little bit more about blend, has given me some other sort of perspectives that perhaps I didn't have before. And I'd just like to share it with you if I could. Because what seems to me that blend, what it means ultimately, is both the Buddha's call and it's our response to that call. And I think this is how I would like to think about blend, and perhaps it's a useful way for all of us to think about blend. Call and response is something that I think we're all familiar with at the Berkeley Buddhist Temple. D.I. Lewis has written a number of gathas that contain that form of call and response, in which the leader calls out or sings a line and the rest of us respond by singing the line. And that's a form of singing that has a long history. It's really wonderful. It gets everyone involved, and it's just gives us a sense of unity and community that's just, it can't be denied. That sense of call and response, I believe, is also present in Jodo Shinshu, in the teachings of Shinran Shonin. If we can go back to the two passages that I read to you in the beginning of this talk, Namu, says Shinran, means to take refuge. To take refuge is the command of the primal vow, calling to and summoning us. Taking refuge, Namu, is the Buddha, is the primal vow, calling to us, summoning us to come forward, to come to go to the Pure Land. But then he also says, Shinran says, Namu means to take refuge. To take refuge is to respond to the command and follow the call of the two honored ones, Shakyamuni and Amida. In other words, Namo Amida Butsu is both a call and its response. It's our response to that call. In other words, another way of saying it is that the Nembutsu, Namo Amida Butsu, is Buddha's calling of the name, Namo Amida Butsu, to us, calling to us just as we are. And it's our response as we call out the name Namo Amida Butsu with hearts filled with gratitude as we seek to live our lives of awakening. Thus, it seems to me that blend can be also viewed from two perspectives, both as the Buddha's call and our response. The Buddha's call, in that sense, I would say blend stands for Buddha and land of equality and non-discrimination. Whereas our response, we could call Buddhist living with equity and non-discrimination. So blend is just both a call and a response. How do we understand this a little bit more? If I could just go into a little bit more detail. Blend then is a way to understand the truth of interdependence, oneness, and harmony. It gives expression to the realm of enlightenment, the Pure Land, as well as the Buddha and the Buddha's wisdom, the Buddha's mind of non-discrimination. And yet, it's more than just that. It's not just a wonderful description of an ideal world. It's a call to us, calling us to know our true selves, to become our true selves, and to live our true lives within the Nembutsu. So blend is a way to understand the call of Amida Buddha's name, Namo Amida Butsu. It's the call of the Buddha's boundless wisdom and compassion to us, and our response to that call as we live lives of Nembutsu and awakening. So how do we think about this a little bit more? Let's go into a little bit more, if we detail if we could. The call as blend, or blend as the call. Amida Buddha's Pure Land is a realm of enlightenment, which is truly pure. Amida Buddha teaches us that in that land, each being and everything is unique, And yet at the same time, all are interrelated and all are of equal value with others. The light of Amida Buddha is boundless wisdom, and that light reveals that in reality, everyone is a blend. All of us are blends. There's a little of everyone in me. There's a little of me in everyone. Using the phrase interdependence again, it means that everything exists through the arising of an infinite and inconceivable mixture of causes and conditions. There is no you without me. There is no me without you. Each of us is both dependent upon each other, but we are also totally of value as we are, as ourselves. Our response then is we come to understand the value of all life. This is also blend, that each and every person and thing is worthy of utmost respect because everyone is a blend. It teaches us about diversity. Everyone is a product of a unique set of conditions and thus differs from everyone and everything else. It also teaches us about value. Yet we are all interrelated, since everyone is interconnected with everything else. Within the reality of oneness, each of us, while uniquely distinct, is of equal value with all others. And inclusion. Our true life is to live with every other being in harmony, with mutual acceptance and respect, not judging others as good or bad, or as superior or inferior. This is blend in our response to the call of the Buddha as blend. There's another sense of blend as the call. Amida's heart of great compassion reaches out to all unenlightened beings living in this world, afflicted with greed, anger, and foolishness, three poisons. What Amida Buddha teaches us, what Amida Buddha's reality is that every being is nurtured by and within the Buddha's light. Everyone is touched and illumined and embraced and transformed by Amida Buddha's light. That's a wonderful teaching, but there's another side to it. It also teaches us that nothing is hidden from the Buddha's heart. Nothing is out of its reach. This is why one of the names given to Amida Buddha is the Tathagata of unhindered light. There is no stopping the light. Nothing obstructs the light. Amida's light of wisdom sees everything. Nothing is hidden from the Buddha. Nothing is out of its reach. What is our response then as blend? We're exposed by the light. And so we engage in deep reflection, deep self-examination. We come to understand that in our unenlightened world, notions of purity are often distorted. Often we become obsessed with racial or ethnic or religious purity. We use that word as if we know what it means. Or sometimes we think that there's only one way to look or think or have faith, or one decent lifestyle, or one kind of sexual orientation. But what we come to understand is that unenlightened notions of purity can lead to inequality, discrimination, and violence. This is also what we understand through self-reflection upon ourselves, but also in the world. We see that ideas like purity can be misused and misunderstood. We see that in the world today, all of the challenges that are happening today. We see this in would-be tyrants, fomenting violence, stirring up crowds and rioters to invade the citadel of democracy. We see these challenges to our way of life and our way of thinking going on, and it's scary. It's frightening. I think we're all scared. We're all frightened and worried about the prospects. But we can also understand that we can receive this call of blend, and we can respond as blend. And in some way, I think a very meaningful way, we can become part of a movement that will bring about a solution, will bring about a world that is more ideal, more a closer reflection, a world that's a closer reflection of the Pure Land. In our responses blend, we can awaken to the reality that no lie can be concealed. No form of discrimination can escape from being exposed. The would-be tyrants, the seditionists, those who are biased and prejudiced against people simply by the color of their skin or the way they look or the language they speak, where they come from or what they believe, that even these forms of discrimination and prejudice of oppressive behavior cannot be concealed. They will find the light of day if we all continue to open our hearts and our minds to the call that is blend. And so it's vital that we as Buddhists and as human beings must not hold to the false belief that we are pure, but we must appreciate the reality of life is one of blending. Within every person, family, and society, there's a blending of cultures, races, religions, and lifestyle choices. Nowadays, being a blend is not the exception, it is the rule. I'd like to now, as I come to the end of this talk, introduce you to another person, I think who's a very significant person in this world. Her name is Representative Val Demings from Florida. She's a congresswoman from Florida, and I think she has some really interesting things to say. Let me tell you a little bit about Representative Demings, if you're not familiar with her. She's a representative of Florida's 10th Congressional District. She's been so since 2017. For 5 years, she was the chief of the Orlando Police Department, the first woman to lead the department, capping a 27-year in law enforcement. She, in the Congress, she has done a number of things, working on behalf of not only her constituents in Florida, but on behalf of all Americans. A person who's a real leader in the area of civil rights and human rights, but also the protection of our safety and security. She also served as an impeachment manager on the very first Senate trial of President Trump, and we know there's going to be another trial coming up soon. As a former police chief, Representative Demings doesn't mess around. She's very straightforward. She says what she thinks. And one of the expressions that she uses a lot is this one: everyone counts and everyone is accountable. You can see this in one of her tweets that I've put down below. She says, everyone counts and everyone is accountable. If you break the law, you should be held accountable. If a police officer breaks the law or breaks their department's rules, they should be held accountable too. She's very straightforward. She feels that anyone, police officers, politicians, anyone, must obey the law. No one is above the law. And if people abuse their power, abuse their authority, and hurt others, they should be brought to justice. She's very straightforward about it. She means what she says. I'd like to just think a little bit about what Congresswoman Demings says about this. Her expression, everyone counts and everyone is accountable. To me, I'd like to kind of just give a thought to that in relationship to blend. As we hear the call of Amida Buddha's wisdom and compassion, we realize that everyone counts. Everyone is of utmost value. And everyone is accountable, not just legally or morally, but spiritually. What that means is this: we can't avoid seeing our own connections, perhaps our own even involvement, one might even say our own complicity in the problems, disturbances, and challenges in our world. We come to realize with utmost humility and honesty that greed, anger, and foolishness breed more greed, anger, and foolishness. These three poisons will never end in this world as long as we ourselves contribute to harbor the same poisons in our hearts. We know that solving the problems of racism, sexism, social disparity, climate change, and violence, etc., will only be possible when we realize that that everyone counts and everyone is accountable for the continuation of those problems. And this is one way of looking at it from a more of a Buddhist perspective. And it is then that we can choose to take Amida Buddha's vows as our own, as we strive to live lives of truth and honesty with care and concern for all beings, as we vow to work to support a world of freedom and equity in which every person, everything is valued, and as we share this teaching of the Nembutsu with all other beings in the world. If we want to express our gratitude to Shinran Shonin and honor Dr. King at this time and at all times, perhaps we can do so by hearing the call of truth of blend and by responding by living our own lives of blend. That way we can embody Shakyamuni Buddha's teachings and make Amida Buddha's vows our own, thereby living lives of equity and non-discrimination, living lives of wise, non-violent action and compassionate engagement in the world. I'd like to close by reading to you two passages. The first is by a very well-known Jodo Shinshu minister, a great scholar and master, person I revere very much, Reverend Jitsuen Kakehashi. Kake Sensei said this at the BCA Centennial Celebration in 1999. When we say the Nembutsu, we are called to awaken by the Tathagata's teachings and are nurtured as children of the Buddha. Since the Tathagata makes this wish for all sentient beings throughout the 10 quarters, we become aware that all persons are children of the Buddha. And finally, from the Metta Sutta, the Sutra of Loving Kindness, taught to us by Shakyamuni Buddha thousands of years ago, but still very, very relevant and important today. Whatever living beings there be, feeble or strong, tall, stout or medium, short, small or large, without exception, seen or unseen, those dwelling far or near, those who are born or those who are to be born, may all beings be happy. Just as a mother would protect her only child at the risk of her own life, even so, let us cultivate a boundless heart toward all beings. Please join me now in Dassho. Namo Amida Butsu. Namo Amida Butsu. Namo Amida Butsu. Namanda. 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 Back again. Thank you very much, everyone, for allowing me to join you at today's Dharma Family Service. This is about the best we could do right now, sort of this virtual recorded sort of situation, but there will be a day when the epidemic, COVID-19 pandemic will be over, when things will get better and we'll be able to see each other again. I look forward to that day. And in the meantime, I hope all of you will please take care, be safe, and be well. And please continue to live lives of blend within the Nembutsu. Thank you very much. Namanda.